Shri Guru Charana Kevala Bhagaji Samo
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Mui Savardhanama Bando Mui Savardhanama Jahaira prasaire pai bhavatori jahai Jahaira prasare pai bhavatori jahai Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy Guru Mukha Padma Vaikya Chitte ke Koriya Haikya Hairana Koriyo Mane Sa Hairana Koriyo Mane Sa Shri Guru Charani Se Utama Ganti Shri Guru Charani Se Utama Ganti He prasare pure sarva sa Je prasare pure sarva sa Udana dillo je janme janme prabhu se O chakudana dillo je janme janme prabhu se Canarite procasito. Eve Canarite procasito. Brahma Bhakti Jaya hoite Havida Vinasa jate. Oh Brahma Bhakti Jaya hoite Havida Vinasa jate. Vede Gaya Haya Charito. Oh Vede Gaya Haya Charito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Hadama Janaira Bandhu. Oh Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Hadama Janaira Bandhu. Lokena Lokera Jivana. Lokena Lokera Jivana. Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deho More Bhaira Jaya. Oh ha ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deho More Bhaira Jaya. Eveas Gushu Tribu Vaina. Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Shila Prabhupada. Oh Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Shila Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Haribo 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 Jai Gaura Haribo. Jai Shila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimante Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Oh Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pashyata Desatarine. Ujjaya Shri Krishna Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Guru Shiva Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare.
Krishna Krishna,
No, Hare no, Gena Gena, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Orengino, Orengino, Gena, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Hey Jaya Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Holy Dai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Our spiritual master, she hopes to mercy. Namo Namaha Tulasi Prayasi Namo Namaha Namo Radha Krishna Seva Bhava Hey Abhilasi Krishna Seva Bhava Hey Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Hey Abhilasi Krishna Deva Bhavo Abhilasi Ye Tomara Sharanaloy Kadabancha Punahoy Kadabancha Punahoy Kripa Kari Korotare Vrindavanavasi Kari Korotare Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Prayasi Namo Namaha Moraya Vilas Kunje Diovas Vilas Kunje Diovas Nayane Ribo Sadha Yugala Ruparasi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Nivedana Daro Sakiranugata Karo Devadi Korodi Koroni Devasi Koroni Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Prayasi Namo Namaha Dina Krishna Dasi Koi Namo Rahoy Namo Dina Krishna Dasi Koi Namo Rahoy Hey Namo Rahoy Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yena Vasi Govinda Preme Sada Yena Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yena Vasi Govinda Preme Sada Yena Vasi Yani Kani Chapa Pani Brahma Tani Kani Cha Tani Tani Prana Shanti Bharakshana Pade Pade Yani Kani Chapa Pani Brahma Tani Kani Cha Tani Tani Prana Shanti
Kanicha tani tani pranashanti pradachana pade pade.
Tani Tani Prana Shanti Bharakshana Pade Pade Tani Tani Prana Shanti Bharakshana Pade Pade Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Jaya Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Jaya Tulsi Devi
Jai Radha Madhava Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bhagavate Gopi Janabalapa Iti Vadadade
Gopindana Madaba Iri Badade Yasodanana Vrajajananana Yasodanana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna te Ramanachati Yamuna te Ramanachari Jai Rad Amadava Kunyabihadi Jai Radhamadava Kunyabihadi Gopijana Ballabha Iti Badurade Gopijana Ballabha Iti Badurade Yasonanandana Prajadana Ranjana Yasonanandana Prajadana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Panachare Yamuna Tera Panachare Jai Hurad Umadava Kunyabihagoti Jai Rad Umadava Kunyabihagoti Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa also tell us Thakur Kajai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Kajai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gokupadan Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yuvanamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pajani Nivasesha Shinyavadi Paschacha Dejatarni. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam again, we're going to do text 17 of the 10th chapter, 43rd chapter, 10th canto. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'm just going to read the text and the translations as we've gone over the purport and everything for the last 2 days before this. And so the reason I'm doing this again, and I think we need a very clear explanation of what ras is. So I think it's really important to understand, ras, rasabas, and all these other different items. So it's very clear. So this will be like an explanation of ras for dummies. Anyway, not that you're dummies, but just a very simple explanation so we can understand these things. So I'm just going to read the text and the translation. Malanam Ashanirinam Hadavara Srinam Masmaro Mrutivam Gopanam Svajano Satam Shtibujam Shastasa Petro Shachu Mritshur Boja Paterad Avidusham Tatvam Param Yoginam Rishinam Devateti Vidito Rangam Gatasa Gratshaha. The various groups of people in the arena regarded Krishna in different ways when he entered it with his elder brother. The wrestlers saw Krishna as a lightning bolt, the men of Mathura as the best of males, the women as Cupid in person, the coward men as their relative, the impious rulers as a chastiser, his parents as their child, the king of the Bhojas' death, the unintelligent as the Supreme Lord's universal form, the yogis as the absolute truth, and the Vrishnis as their supreme worshipable deity. So, of course, this reminds us of the Bhagavad Gita verse, Yeyatam mam prapachante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mamvart manu vartante manusha partha sarvasha. Everyone is reciprocating with Krishna, either directly or indirectly, and Krishna reciprocates with that person according to their approach to him. So according to someone's desire, as Krishna says also in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 15, Matak Smritir Gyanam Aponam Cha. Krishna gives you specific intelligence. And also Krishna makes your faith strong according to your desire. If you want to worship a demigod, you get strong faith in the demigod. If you want to worship a particular politician like we've seen in the United States, some people have absolute faith in a politician, even though, anyway, no comment. Even though it's insane. Guess I made my comment. So it's actually super soul in the heart who gives one that reciprocation. So Krishna is definitely reciprocating. He's also equal with everybody. So it's not that Krishna loves the devotees more than the demons. He says, Samoham sarvabhuteshu tamidveshosti naprihad. Loves everybody. And he's giving everybody what's good for them at that particular moment in terms of their progressive march of ultimately becoming Krishna conscious. So this is the background here. Krishna is giving people a vision according to their emotional state, their desires, and so he's acting perfectly, and they're acting perfectly. Everything's going on perfectly in this particular context. So, of course, as I said, today we're going to talk about ras, not ras, ras. Ras means a taste. Just a basic definition. It means a taste. Everybody is experiencing ras. Even the taste of ignorance, if you happen to be sleeping during Bhagavatam class, is a taste. And so after this, we're going to take prasadam, and there's different Rus is actually to put a plural on the Sanskrit word in different foods. And there's sweet, there's sour, bitter, astringent, all these different types of taste. So throughout our life, in relationships with other people, relationships with even with ourselves, we're actually experiencing rust. If you look in a mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the best sannyasi of them all? That's a particular taste. I have a taste for looking at myself in the mirror like that. Or I have a taste for joking, isn't it? It's Hasha. Russ, sometimes people say things to me, and the way I alleviate stress is I joke. And that's a taste, a certain taste. So, or I get stressed, that's also a Russ. So it's very important to understand that, because sometimes we may think that only Russes are spiritual, but they're actually all over the place. Why is that? And I'm actually going to quote a verse that I looked up yesterday. It's really a cool verse. It's from the Tatitreya Upanishad, 7:1. And I have a wonderful translation of it, which I didn't do because I don't uh, speak Sanskrit. Let me just read this verse. Because basically, what this verse states is that Krishna is Ras. And as we know, everything comes from Krishna. What is it? Aham sarva shaprabhu matak sarva bhavartate. Iti matva bhajanti bhav. So Krishna says in the Gita, one of the most important verses in the Bhagavad Gita, the first in the nutshell verses, I am the source of everything. So the source of everything is full of Ras. Krishna is Ras, so everything must have Ras, right? So such an interesting verse. It took me a while to find a good translation. This translation was done by my godbrother Banu Maharaj, because I have a translation of his Tatiktriya Upanishad, which he just gave me. He's done a translation. He's an amazing personality. He's translated so many books, which are available on the internet, if you want to buy the books. If you don't happen to be a sannyasi who gets them for free. So, asad vaidam agrahaset tato vaisad adyayata tat atmanam swayam akruruta tasmat tat sukratam uchate iti yadvai tat sukratam rasovai saha. Now that's the part of the verse that's actually most important. Rasovai saha. Rasam yevayam labhva nandi bhavate ko yevanyatka panayat yad esha akasha anando nashat esha yeva nandayati yadai yevaisha etasmin adrishenya me nirukte nilayane Vayam pratishtam vindate ataso vayam gato bhavati yada yesh ye vaishay tasmin udaram antaram kurute atatasha vayam bhavati tatveva vayam vidusho manvanashatad apyesha shloka bhavati. Translation is, the Lord alone existed before creation. Sounds like the first of the Chatushloki verses. Then he created the universe. He created the universe by himself. In other words, that's it. Of course, and also by his energies, which are non-different from him and different simultaneously. Therefore, he is called the person who makes things expertly. So, this is also Isopanishad, what? Om Purnam, the perfect Supreme Personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And although so many complete and perfect units emanate from him, he remains the perfect and complete whole. Uh, he who expertly creates is ras, bliss. Uh, the jiva attaining the Lord becomes blissful. If the Lord who is bliss, so the Lord is bliss, described as bliss here, which is Krishna. Uh, he attracts you and he gives you Ananda. If his bliss did not exist, who could live? He alone gives bliss. Then the worshiper is fixed furiously in the Lord who is invisible, without body, beyond description, without material body, of course, without support. He attains fearlessness. When the worshiper does not engage himself with full concentration in the Lord, there is great fear. There is a verse concerning this. Of course, that's a verse from the Bhagavatam. That Bhayam comes from this duality. You know, that fear comes from the duality of seeing things separate from the Supreme Personality of God. It's just a Tattva Upanishad. So, because everything is, as Krishna is ras, and everything is ras, therefore we can, in the material world, begin to appreciate Krishna through the different rasas. And Krishna gives a hint in the Bhagavad Gita about this. Is what does he say? Rasoham, apsu kontiya prabhasmi sashi shurya. That I am the taste of what? Does anyone know? Not another one. When the taste of what? Water. Prabhupada even said that one can begin to appreciate Krishna if one is a drunkard. He's drinking the whatever, booze, and he understands this taste is Krishna. The taste of the liquid is Krishna. That doesn't mean you should do that. But, you know, that's the beginning stage. And, of course, as we know, one must have the association of devotees to progress further. Now, the interesting thing that I've seen about Ras, one other thing Prabhupada said about Ras in the material world, even in the material world, is that it's only exchange, because you're experiencing rust, not rust. You're experiencing rust, and it's enjoyable to exchange it. You know, we have this need for exchanging or relationships with other people. So it's enjoyable to exchange it with others. Prabhupada comments that this rust in the material world cannot be exchanged between members of different species. I found that quite interesting, isn't it? And because there is no meeting of minds between different species, we project. You know, this is of course, the verse Atman Prabhat Manyate Jagat. We have our own particular mentality, and we project it upon others. And in many cases, we're not actually experiencing an exchange of rust with even human beings when the mentality is so much different. But what to speak of animals? You understand that? Like the animal is thinking, I mean, I don't know what the animal's thinking. I'm not a dog whisperer or a cat whisperer or something like that. But the animal is thinking something completely different. And Prabhupada does give the example that when people die, he'd use this example, but the dog who likes to lick the human being licks the dead body, and one part of the dead body he likes very much is the naris, the nose. So sometimes he even eats it. So he's experiencing rust, and you're experiencing rust, but there's no connection. And I thought that was interesting also in regard to our relationship with Krishna. You know, sometimes we think we're experiencing spiritual rust, but basically there's no connection with either Krishna or his devotees. You understand what I mean? So that may be one definition of a rasa bus, where there's not a connection there. Because there has to be a Vishaya and Ashraya. Everyone understands those 2 points? And let me explain what that means. Ashraya means that the emotion is reposed. He's the shelter of that particular emotion. And Vishaya sometimes means the enjoyer. But in any case, usually in relationship between Krishna and the devotee is the Ashraya. Of course, sometimes it's switched. But in general, we're the Ashraya experiencing a particular relationship, and that relationship is focused on Krishna. But also, it sometimes is focused on Krishna's devotees too. So there has to be some exchange. An exchange of ras is essential for having a spiritual ras. That's one of the essential items. So, otherwise, it's rather one-sided, and that's, of course, the sahaja is on that particular level. Sahaja means someone who takes things cheaply. That he's thinking, I'm experiencing spiritual ecstasy. He's experiencing a ras. That's true, but it's not spiritual. And he's thinking, Krishna is very pleased with my spiritual ecstasy. My guru is very pleased with my spiritual ecstasy. But the guru may be thinking, this guy's a jerk. Or, this is not jerk. In Maya, sorry. The guru may be thinking this person, this disciple, whatever, is in Maya. And the disciple's thinking, I'm pleasing my guru. How many times we've actually thought like that sometimes, isn't it? We do things like Achahara Prayasascha Pajalpam Niyamagraha, especially the over endeavor that, I'm over endeavoring, building this big thing, just like it's described sometimes as sannyasi should not be very enthusiastic about constructing expensive temples. Don't worry. We had a discussion with someone about this yesterday, and they said, why are you so enthusiastic about constructing it? I said, no, New Goloka is not expensive. Or someone shouldn't be like very enthusiastic about reading many books. Unless there's service, but that has to be corroborated by the spiritual authority, the spiritual master, and others. And then also building temples. Like sometimes Prabhupada was enthusiastic about building expensive temples, like in Mumbai, Vrindavan, Mayapur, of course. And Prabhupada had the devotees go out and just collect money. Prabhupada encouraged one devotee to give $100,000 every month. And then he said, you can worship Ganesh. And the devotee got very enthusiastic and did it. Worship Ganesh at his safe. His safe was his altar. So anyway, so we have to really understand, is the reciprocation going on to be spiritual with the spiritual master, with Krishna? Is that reciprocation of ras going on? Otherwise, we are experiencing ras, and they may also be experiencing the ras of anger, right? Or disgust. But there's no exchange. It's not an exchange of ras. It's interesting analysis. I was thinking about ras last night because I was preparing to give this class. So then we go on to the topic of what are compatible rasas, because rasas are sometimes incompatible, sometimes compatible with each other. And definitely, in most cases, there's mixing of different rasas. For example, if you have a rasa, okay, let's talk about what Sthai Bhava, your Sthai Bhava generally is a Vatsalya. In other words, you're a parent. But it's not that I'm a parent. There has to be some action there, There's my kid crying. I'm a parent. I identify myself as a parent. So there has to be some mixture, isn't it? Otherwise, it's rather static. So Sthai Bhava means, generally the predominant ras, predominant taste. And as we've mentioned many times before, there's 12 basic tastes, beginning with the 5 main rasas, which are, main relationships which give a taste, which are the Shanta, Dasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Shanta means peaceful, just like appreciating the greatness of God. Dasha means serving God. Sakya means becoming the friend of God. But Vatsalya means parental relationship, and Madhurya, the conjugal relationship. But those relationships exist with other they're mixed with other relationships, otherwise there's basically no activity. You understand that? Activity comes from, let's say, talking about the Vatsalya, the mother relationship, that's called Sthai Bhava. That's the Sthai Bhava, just so everyone remembers what Sthai Bhava is. That's a predominant relationship. Actually, let's talk about, because the bhavas, bhava means emotion, just to be specific. The bhavas, generally there's 5, and some acharyas describe there's only 4 bhavas, which is interesting. They describe the Astasattviga bhava under the heading of Anubhava. I was just reading that last night. Some of the acharyas talk about Astasattviga bhava because they're expressed voluntarily. And Anubhava means all right, so let's talk about the bhavas, which are called rasa samagri, which means the ingredients of ras, or taste. Emotions are the ingredient of any taste, right? Okay, because if you don't have emotions, you can't taste. So there's a predominant emotion, which is, dasha, sakya, etc. That's sthaya bhava. It's called sthaya bhava. And then what you do about that is called the anubhava. You may have an emotion of love for your kid, and you may decide just to jump in ecstasy every time you see his diapers. Or his little, or to be more, not so funny anymore. Or you see the bronze shoes of when he was a baby or something like that, like my mother. She would feel ecstasy. Even one of my disciples got those bronze shoes, my baby shoes, and she feels ecstasy just looking at the shoes. So the lotus bronze shoes of my spiritual master. So that's called an anubhava. They just jump up and down like that. And then ecstasies and sattviga bhava means the constitutional ecstasies. And then after that, there's the sanchari bhava, the bhavas that move throughout one's whole body and mind. And these are 33, and these are uncontrolled ecstasies. They just like take over your consciousness without any warning. So anyway, so these are the bhavas, which are the constituents of ras. They're connected. So getting back to the point, so let's say one's in vatsalya, which means a parental relationship, then they got to do something about it. Your kid's crying. You can't just identify yourself as a parent. You got to feel some anxiety. Why is my kid crying? Does it need his bottle? Do I have to chant Hare Krishna to him because he's a pure devotee? That's why he's crying. So many things, emotions come up, and so these are the indirect rasas. Anxiety, like that. Of course, I guess there must be some ghastliness when he vomits or something. So, I'm being humorous just to make so you understand the point. So there's mixing of these difference, and so sometimes even the indirect rus becomes prominent, and for some time it's temporarily, even though your natural rus or your natural relationship is parental. Just the anxiety, you just become overcome with anxiety sometimes, isn't it? So, therefore, there's 2 names of that are given in Sanskrit of the predominant mood and the subservient mood. This is the angi and anga. Anga, just like we are part and parcel of Krishna. So angi means the main mood. Anga is the subsidiary mood. So we are a part and parcel of Krishna. So Krishna is, I guess, wouldn't say the angi. Usually you might say that. And we're anga. relationship to Krishna. So, therefore, because you have these different moods that are mixing, and devotees are writing books about these different moods and different pastimes of Krishna that are mixing, sometimes there is mixing that occurs that is inappropriate or distasteful. This is the rasabas, the distasteful rasabas. There's actually different types of rasabas. Rasabas, the mixture, is actually experienced as a ras, but it's not a bona fide, isn't it? It's not a bona fide relationship because it's a distasteful rasabas. I mean, sometimes it's tasteful. Just like Prabhupada gave the example of, what is it, sand in the sweet rice. That's definitely distasteful. Or even a practical example in what happened with Prabhupada, there was the charnamrita. Someone put salt in it. And Prabhupada went to take the charnamrita, and he took it. He says, "Who has done this?" And there was a little girl who just, not a little girl, she was an adult, who had the laughter isn't it? She started laughing. That wasn't appropriate. So her laughter was a rasabas. And the salt in the sweet rice was rasabas, so you double rasabas. So it was doubly aggravating for Srila Prabhupada to deal with that particular rasabas. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like these conflicting or these rasabasas that were actually improper. So therefore, he didn't even directly hear from people who wrote different pastimes of Krishna or different books about the pastimes of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had Swarup Damodar Goswami listen to them first, and then he commented. I mean, there was one gentleman who wrote something that was completely rasabas. He compared Lord Jagannath's body to material piece of wood, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the soul that gives the body of Lord Jagannath life. Oh my God! I mean, that's definitely a great offense. And so Swarup Damodar Goswami chastised him, but then he was able to, I guess, take another interpretation of the poet's works, so it appeared to be something that was actually in tune with the proper understanding of ras. So therefore, one has to understand which rasas are appropriate with each other and which rasas are not. And I have a very nice chart here. See, chart. Which I could post, but I didn't post, that deals with the different compatibilities and incompatibilities between the different rasas. And of course, this is from the chart is from the Nectar of Devotion. I like this chart. So anyway, I don't know if we have time to read it. So let's talk about some of the because there's different angis that occur. There's actually 12 different possible angis, and there's many different angas under each angi. For example, under the angi of neutrality, that's Shantaras, what's compatible is a little bit of servitude, ghastliness. And I'm going to give some examples of this. But ghastliness, for example, let's say it was in Shantaras one, is just thinking of when that I'm disgusted with what I did before in the material world. I was actually a really bad person, engaged in drinking or whatever. That's ghastliness. There's heroic religiosity, which is called Dharmavira. And also Adbhuta is compatible. Adbhuta means astonishment. And incompatible with Shantaras would be Madhurya Ras, which means conjugal love. I mean, like I'm disgusted with everything in this material world, and I just want to see Krishna kissing the gopis. That's not a compatible relationship. Uh, mm, Anger is incompatible, and Bhayanika, fear, is incompatible. And there's actually neutral angas like friendship, parental, laughter, and compassion. So anyway, I don't know if I should go through all these, but what I wanted to do also is to read some of the examples in the Nectar of Devotion, because this illustrates it, I think, better than anything else. First of all, I want to read examples of what's called the whole and the part, which means the angi and anga. So you get an understanding what it means to consider one particular rasa to be the main one and the other one to be a subservient one, or secondary one in that particular relationship. So even as I mentioned before, even the secondary rasas, such as humor or shock, can sometimes be primary, and the primary rasas, such as Shantadasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, can sometimes be secondary in temporarily in a particular situation. Okay, so let's talk about that. Okay, give an example of a primary and a secondary here. The following statement elucidates the subject of a part or whole. All living entities are just like sparks from the supreme fire, and as such, I do not know if I, a tiny spark, shall be able to engage myself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, of the supreme fire, Lord Krishna. So, actually, maybe we can do a guessing game here. So, what do you think is the whole here? Anybody have any idea? Mother, really, you can guess. Okay. All living entities are just like sparks from the supreme fire, and as such, I do not know if I, a tiny spark, shall be able to engage myself in the transcendental loving service of the supreme fire, Lord Krishna. What's the angi? No, neutrality. And the anga is servitude towards Krishna, loving service of the supreme fire, Lord Krishna. So in this statement, Prabhupada explains, actually is explaining, translating Rupa Goswami's statements, the feelings of neutral love are taken as a whole, whereas the desire to serve the Lord is taken as a part. So let's do another test. Actually, this is a way to learn the questions and answers. At last, I am still trying to relish different pleasurable states from this body, which is simply some skin covering mucus, semen, and blood. In this state of consciousness, I am so condemned that I cannot relish the transcendental ecstasy of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what's the main one? What? Ghastliness. And the next one is neutrality. Okay, let's let someone else answer the next one. When shall I be freed from this mode of ignorance? And thus being purified, when shall I be able to attain the stage of serving Krishna eternally? Only then shall I be able to worship him, always observing his lotus eyes and beautiful face. And so what is the angi, the whole? Anyone have an idea? Let me read it again. When shall I be freed from the mode of ignorance? What is that? What? Huh? No. That's neutrality. That's neutrality. Because it's not really ghastly. It's just like, if you were to describe the mode of ignorance, then it would be ghastliness. If you'd say in the mode of ignorance, I get getting drunk and lying on the road every day, that's disgust and ghastliness. And the part is servitorship. When will I be able to serve Krishna? It's actually important to be able to identify what is the part and what is the whole. Because Otherwise, you won't be able to understand what is rasa bus. What is the improper mixture of the rasas. Please look at this devotee. Actually, we could do these exercises for days here. It's really interesting. Please look at this devotee of Lord who is dancing just from remembering the lotus feet of Krishna. Simply by observing his dance, you will lose all interest in even the most beautiful women. What is that? What's the whole? It's hard. Actually, it's hard to figure it out because the intention is to become detached from this material world, which is neutrality, and the part is ghastliness. So somehow, or the ghastliness is connected with the most beautiful women. It's just like Sripad Yamunacharya said, since I'm experiencing newer and newer ras, whenever I think of mundane sex life, I simply want to what? Spit. Prabhupada was one time reciting this particular verse, and he actually spat. He really got in the mood. He said, here's another one. It's really hard to understand what's happening here. My dear Lord, now I'm turning my face from any thought of association with young girls. As far as Brahman realization is concerned, I've lost all interest because I'm completely absorbed in thinking about you. And being absorbed so blissfully, I have lost all the desires, even the desire for mystic powers. Now my mind is interested only in worshiping your lotus feet. This is a little complicated. So what's the main one? No, it's not even gaseous because it's young girls again. It's the whole is an ecstasy of neutrality. Yeah. That's why I said it's really hard. This is a hard exercise. This is like PhD exercise. And the part is what? It's hard to guess. Chivalry. Chivalry. Yeah. Dharmavira. Shoo. This is not easy. This is like past PhD stuff here. Like I said, if you understand these chapters of the Nectar Devotion, you understand everything. Here's another one. My dear Subal, the damsels of Braj who had the opportunity of enjoying Krishna's kissing must be the foremost of all the fortunate women in the world. So, what's the... what's the whole? Friendship, yeah, and the conjugal is the part. Just one to two more. Actually, it's actually a lot of fun to do this. There's an example of a mixture of parental love. Oh, well, here, no, I gave it away. Forget it. A friend of Mother Yashoda told her, "My dear Yashoda, your son has very cunningly stolen a lump of butter from my home, and to make me blame my own son for his mischief, he has smeared some of the butter on my son's face while he was sleeping." Upon hearing this, Mother Yashoda shook her curved eyebrows. She could only look at her friend with a smiling face. So what is it that? That's pretty easy. What is it? Mother Yashoda, parental, and what's happening? There's joking here. It's humor. Okay. Just one more. My dear friends, just see how Krishna is resting his hand on the shoulder of Subal, who is dressed up just like a young girl. I think he must be sending some message to me through Subal. This is Srimati Radharani speaking. So, what would be the whole? Anybody? Conjugal and friendship. So you're getting it. So anyway, so it's important to study this particular chapter of Nectar Devotion, because then you can go on to understand what is proper and what is improper mixture of the rasas, which is the next two chapters. And this is the northern side of the Nectar of Devotion, Northern Ocean. And these are I believe it's the eighth and ninth waves of the Northern Ocean of the Nectar of Devotion, of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So you see, this is so. So what's going on in this verse in the Bhagavatam is far more complex than we may be capable of understanding at this particular juncture in our devotional service. But it is reciprocation. That's the main thing main point I wanted to make. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanda Aravindalayatatam Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundaram Kandar Akom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Vikayanti Viramati Ananta Chimaya Sadhu Jara Vigrasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Tamaham Bhajami
Namo Vishnu Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Saminichi Namine. Namaste. Adaswachijeve. Gurmani Pacha. Nevasesha. Sanyamadi. Satyade. Satarande. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri. Turn my ears. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Siva Sati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You're right. I'm looking on the right. I'm looking on the struggle. You're looking on the right. I'm looking on the struggle. Say. Hey. Rate, rate, rate. No, rate, rate, rate. Jai Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Par. Shrimati Lassi Devi Jai. Devotees, all glories, he assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Govinda. Vicharanam, Vardhanam, Pratipadam, Padamritaspadanam, Sarvatmasnapanam, Param, Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, Nam Nam Akari Bahujat, Nija Sarva Shaktish, Tatrapitani Mata Smarane Nakala, Etadrashita Bakripa Bhagava Mamampi, Durdaiva Midri Shamihan, Haninan Ragach, Trinada Pe Sunichenat, Duror Hiva Sihishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadari, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim, Kavidamba Jagadish Kamaye, Mama Janmani Jamnani Ishvare, Bavatad Bhakti Rahai Chwaye, Ainanda Tanu Jikinkaram, Patitamam Vishme Bhavam Buddho, Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja, Sita Duli Sadrasam Vachintaya, Nayanam Dasrutaraya, Vadanam Gadkada Rudiya Gira, Pulaka Nichitam Bapukada, Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati, Yugai Tam Nimishena, Chatusha Purishai Tam, Junyai Tam Jagat Sarvam, Govinda Vidahename, Ashli Shiva Pada Panashtamam, Adarshanam Armatam Karotava, Yata Tata Bhavadatu Lampato, Matprananatas Sevanapraha. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I'm fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with birds of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on the recitation at your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally.